Hello and welcome back. I am so thrilled to be back in the podcast chair with an awesome person who I just met, and I will get to him in about 30 seconds. For those of you who are, what is this podcast? Adventures in Adversity. It is a podcast where we bring in real people who tell true stories and really just inspire us through how they got through adversity. And ultimately, I hope that you walk away from these episodes with a real inspiration of how to take any situation in your life and turn it into something better, right? Despite what you're going through. So I really am so thrilled to introduce my next guest. He is an author and he is mere the age of 19 already just doing amazing things, writing books, publishing websites. Wilson, really nice to meet you. You just published markedbyadoption.com as well as a book.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here, and that's super cool. You can follow markedbyadoption.com and stay up to date with there. So,
Congratulations. Launch day is very exciting. That's what this episode is going to be about, as well as just taking us through your journey, your adversity. And it looks you are on a mission to help others through this website and through your book.
yeah, I mean, that when it's all said and done, that's the goal. That's what I want to do. At 19 years old, you get the question, what do you want to do in the future? What do you want to be? I want to help people, plain and simple, no matter
Yeah.
how I don't care what job I end up with. I want to help people. And that's,
Yeah. Well, I know a little bit of your story and we're going to get into it. That's where I think is going to be a very inspirational conversation because I think you have a very unique perspective that, other adoptees I've befriended a few adoptees since interviewing Jim a couple last episode. And I'm just so grateful to be connected with people like you and people, especially who are now taking your adversity and actually turning it into a vehicle to help other people. It's
yeah.
really cool.
It's easy to help ourselves, but that question is, then how do we help others? And so that's
Yeah.
what my goal is, and I'm trying to.
Yeah. So we've got the website. And by the way, I'm going to put all of the links to your book, to markedbyadoption.com, to your Instagram where they can follow you because everybody will be checking it out. And I'm looking at the cover on your website, Marked by Adoption, Wilson Munsterman. And then below it says 10 key insights from an adoptee's perspective.
Mhm.
So this is available on the website for purchase. And I would love to, in the next hour, just really dive into, you know, who you are, what inspired you to write this book, an insight into your journey, and then what people can expect if they, purchase this book and what you've learned through all of this. So I'm going to stop talking now, which is very hard for me. And Wilson, take me through your journey. Tell me a little bit about yourself and we'll just kind of go from there if that works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess
Okay.
my journey had started from the beginning. I was born in China. I was left on a doorstep. No forms of identification, just abandoned there. Ads ran in the paper saying, "Hey, we have a healthy baby boy here. We have a young male here." Nobody stepped forward. After that, I was initially checked out by the hospital and then sent to the orphanage system in China. During this time, there were a little, sketchy gray area things going on in there. But I
Okay.
do know then at 10 months, I was adopted by my parents here in America.
Okay.
Now, what's really interesting about that story is when you break it down. So I was born in 2006. The one child policy was going on in 2006, where families were only allowed one child. Now, when you collab that with the culture of China during this time is where you wanted a healthy male, the fact that I'm where I'm at in America right now, halfway across the world, and I'm a healthy male, it shouldn't be. The fact that
Hmm.
somebody found me on that doorstep, the fact that nobody stepped forward, anybody could have stepped forward. The fact that I
Yeah.
made it out through the orphanage systems when they were going through malpractices and shutting down. The fact that I was essentially brought here to my parents. And what I mean by that is in most international adoptions, the parents know they're going overseas. They go and visit the country. That didn't happen with my parents. They got a
Mm.
call saying, "Hey, we have a baby boy here." Within like 72 hours, I think was the timeline. Boom, I was in their home. So they had no idea they're going to go international. And so
Mm.
just when you really think of all those kind of stars that had to align, I know that I shouldn't be here. And, I should be dead. And it's something that I've come to terms with. I shouldn't have the opportunities I do to wake up. I shouldn't have the gifts I have. I shouldn't have the blessings I've been given.
Yeah.
And so it's really when you kind of realize that you cheated death is when you can really say, okay, now I'm going to start taking every day not for granted. I'm going to start trying to give back more. And so it was really just in that mindset I had of, oh my God, I could have died. I shouldn't be here. That's when I realized that, oh my God, my adoption is 1 in a million, and that with the opportunities I have here in America, I'm not going to let them go to waste.
Wow, that is a very it's a very inspiring way to turn a traumatic start, right? And I know you had mentioned I did a little research on your website before, um, that you don't remember much of that. Your first memories
No.
are probably later. So
Yeah.
you don't really know what happened, but you ended up in the arms of an American family when you were
Yeah.
10 months old.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, and what's really really cool is, well, not I don't want to say cool, but it is to
Yeah.
me, is that I don't have the memories of it, but I have a reminder. So my book, I have a copy literally right here on my
Yeah.
this. So this
Yes,
is
I'm
right
gonna
here.
there you go. Let's see, plug it, pull it up a little bit. We gotta get a little there we
This is
go.
and so
Beautiful.
the reason why it's called Marked by Adoption is
Yeah.
because people who are adopted kind of get marked by adoption in the sense of they had to play the cards that they weren't dealt, like they were dealt. You couldn't change it really. You had no say. So you had to play those cards. And so they were marked on their spirit. For me, marked by adoption has an entirely different meaning, as I have a brand on my left side. And it's been checked out by doctors, by dermatologists. It's not of natural causes. So they believe that someone branded me as a child, either in the orphanage systems or whatever, but it
Oh,
has Chinese like
okay.
lettering on my
Uh-huh.
side. And so I physically was marked by my adoption, and that growing
Oh.
up, you know, even though I didn't have the memories up here for it, I still had the body responses to it. I still had the reminders, and that, for the first half of my life, it really put me down. It was not something I wanted to talk about. I attributed my worth to my birth parents, saying that if I wasn't good enough for them, would I be good enough for anybody? And it's really hard growing up like that I could have cured cancer. I could have found a way to turn water into fuel. I could have done anything you could have thought of, wouldn't have been enough because I wasn't enough for them. You see these stories of parents, and the first thing to have mothers do after they're given birth is skin to skin contact, create that bond instantly. And the stories of, I looked into my child's eyes and my heart, blew up. I knew I was going to do anything for them. Well, then I internalized those. I wondered, well, why didn't my birth mother see that?
Yeah.
What was so wrong about me? Was it the way I looked?
Um,
Was it, you know, was it something I did even as a baby? So it was really internalizing not being kept
mm,
that really just kind of had the reins in my brain growing up. And so it was just having that constant reminder. It didn't put me in the best, place at times. But I would say that, you know, around high school, this is when kind of my mindset shifted. I realized that, okay, I can't change what happened. I can't change me being adopted. Adoption isn't going away for me or for the millions of other kids that are adopted. So I might as well figure out how to not let this thing define me. Our time's limited.
yeah.
We spend a third of our life sleeping, a third of our life doing other stuff. And so I realized that, okay, well, if I can't change this one event, I'm going to change the way I look at it.
Mm,
Hence, realizing that I shouldn't be here. Hence, realizing that whenever I had doubts, I had friends. And so it was really just about matter of fact of, how do I flip my mindset and looking at this thing as an opportunity
Mm.
That's a negative thing. And, so every time, circle back to the book, every time I see that marked by adoption, I realize that I am marked by my adoption, but the way I define it, but the way I, kind of see it, it's up to me. It's not by anyone else's means.
What if you can it's all mindset, right, perspective, and again, easier for me to say when I'm not an adoptee, but what I admire about you is that at such a young age to come to that realization because that shift will shift the rest of your life, you know? Do
Mhm.
you remember if that insight or that shift, was it a eureka moment? Was it a gradual shift? Was it after an experience? Or do you think how did you come to that? If there's an adoptee listening here and they're struggling with, justified confusion, resentment, anger, depression, anxiety because of it, how do you start to get through that?
Well, for me, I would like to say that it wasn't a straight path. There's not things that I can tell people to say, "Oh, go do
Do
A and
this.
you'll get B result." Go do B, then you'll
What
get C.
Yeah,
Me, it was always the support I had. I didn't have a big family growing up, but I had friends. And
yeah.
the best thing about friends is that they choose you the same way you choose them. I
Mm.
don't know about you, but I'm not friends with people I don't like. I don't think
You are selected for as
Yeah,
your
I don't
friend.
think
Yeah,
anyone's friends with people they don't like. So the
that's great.
fact that every time I had doubts, I was able to go to my friends and
Mm.
remember
Great
very
point.
vividly that this particular friend I was having probably the "I'm not worth anything" talk, maybe for the millionth time. I was saying
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
and they kinda snap at me and go, "Hey, we choose to be here for you." And that really stuck. That really stuck with me because it was, they're right. It's the similarities alike of why people come together, but it's how they learn to love the differences for why they stay. And it's the fact that
Mm,
these people around me chose to, love me and want to be here with me and help me. I mean, if I didn't owe it to myself to help, change my mindset and better my life, I owed it to them. And
mm.
so it was really just a combination of the support, the fact that I read over the files in my head maybe a million times and then said, "You know what? I'm done letting this thing define me. I'm getting bored of it. I can't. I'm not doing it anymore." And then I took control of my own story.
Yeah. That's so admirable and cool, and every guest that comes on here, I'm always interested in I there's always a pivot moment of the trial, and then whether it's one moment or over time, something starts to shift, and then you start to detach from that old story, like, "What story do I wanna rewrite?" And I think I don't wanna gloss over the fact that, I interviewed Jim, I'm interviewing you, you're the 2nd person that I've interviewed as an adoptee, and I have interviewed my friend Sabine, who started Fostering Wishes, an organization to help foster kids in the Bay Area, and I'm just so glad that we are talking more about this because I don't think you don't know when you're walking around who is an adoptee, who is in
Mhm.
a foster home right now. We never know, right? And I just commend you for being a voice for the adoptee community and then writing about it so that, like you said, people outside the adoptee community have a better understanding, right?
Mm.
When your peer or your neighbor or you find out, oh, you're adopted. Oh, and then they start talking, okay, wait, I heard a podcast about this. There's more to it. Like, there's you know what I mean? Understanding people, right? So, I just think it's cool that you are that one of those voices for your community at such a young age.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to be,
You are. You already
that's
are.
no, it, I get that a lot of, you were a voice for the adopted community. But I think, for me, it's I just want to be a voice for anybody. Adopt
Anyone.
a special place in my heart, but I don't believe
Yeah.
story only speaks to adoptees. I think
You're
people all over the
mm.
world of all color, creeds, orientations can relate to feeling not that they weren't enough. And that when
Oh,
you find
yes.
when you find, your worth and the things that you do, you are where you put your time and energy. And, are you going to put your time and energy into talking bad, not feeling like enough, kind of not doing anything to try and pull yourself out of that hole? No, that's probably where you're going to find your worth. But if you start reaching out, asking for help, playing, picking up a new hobby, joining a club, just doing something to help kind of pull you out, that's where then you're gonna find your worth. And I think my story speaks to a bigger crowd and
Mm.
to really help everybody. I don't wanna try and put a box of the people I can help. I wanna help everybody.
That
That's
is a very, very good point, and I think it is, adversity, that's why it's the title of the podcast, Adventures in Adversity, right? It comes in so many forms, and then you hear someone's story, right? It might be a different situation, but you relate to that decision or that sense of really comes down to, and tell me if you agree, the grit and determination of fighting those thoughts, of those I'm not enough thoughts, whether you're in a marriage, a job where you're trying to get validation from boss or a friend that you're having friendship issues with, you're like, okay, we're always striving to be, right? More, or check some box. If you don't mind me asking, and I'm sure you don't, I noticed you had a Bible verse on your profile,
yeah.
and I too am really new in my sort of spiritual journey, kind of coming back to God, raised Catholic, but sort of baby Christian. Oh my gosh, learning. I'm like, what is happening? In the best way. I actually looked it up to see, oh, I wonder what verse that is. And I didn't memorize it, but it is related to, do you remember which one it is? Could
Yeah,
you
it's
mind
John
repeating it?
13.
I didn't want to put you on the spot, but
No,
if you
no, it's
do,
John 13:7. It's you do not understand now, but you will later. And it's that whole kind of spiel of I didn't understand why I had to go through the things I did. I didn't understand why I've you know, had setbacks I've had. But then I realized that, it's not my story. It's my story to write, but it's not my journey to follow. And that, I believe God allows free will. He wants you to choose him, and that he knows at the end of the day, kind of, because he's above time and space, he knows the choices you're going to make. And so I just have faith that, hopefully with prayer and being able to kind of sit back and gather my thoughts, I make the right choices. But I mean, that Bible verse has been in my life because it really helped me through my adoption. I didn't understand why was adopted. I didn't understand why I was in America. I'm thinking there are 7 continents, there are hundreds of other countries. Why here? Why in Omaha, Nebraska? What the heck? And I had to realize that I don't understand it now and I won't have those answers, but later I will. And, it's all kind of come in all the ducks have aligned, I guess, to really show me where my calling is now with the book and the outreach and the podcast, because I didn't understand it why I was adopted. Now I do. It's because my calling is to help people. And so that verse just really just is near and dear to my heart.
mm, I really like that verse, and I read more about it that in the context, again, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm learning. I'm actually in like beginner's Bible study and we're all, yay, it's just basic. We just make fun of each other. Did you know that? I didn't know that. That's basic stuff. Oh, yay, we learned it. But anyway, I love the verse, and I think the context is Jesus was washing the feet of his disciples, right?
Yeah, I believe.
Before he was, crucified, but they're like, "What are you doing?" Right? Like, you won't understand. There's just all these things in life where you're like, my last podcast guest, same thing, just talking about this. You're never gonna really understand. You do have a choice and you are guided, but I think it's important that you do have free will and that you are a powerful person. You are not your circumstance,
Yeah.
you know? So talk to me about in your book, and just without giving too much away to our readers, because I'm going to get a copy of this and read it. I'm going to your homepage here. I'm clicking around on your website. 10 key insights from an adoptee's perspective. Can you talk to me about a few of those insights or any that come to mind that you want to give us a little peek into, that
Yeah.
someone who's going through a hard time might be listening to this, having lost a job, going through grief, self-esteem, whatever it is, right? Everyone's got stuff. Is there any insights that might speak to someone right now or any that you wanna highlight from your book?
Yeah, I mean, the book, what I wanted is it stemmed from a conversation with an adoptive mother. Her daughter was about 9 or 10 at the time, starting to have more conceptualized adult questions. Why did it happen? What was going on? can I meet them? And this mother had a background in adoption. And she said something like, I don't know what I would have done or what I would do if I didn't, have this background. And I said, you know what? That's true. So many other adoptive families don't have that background. Let's provide it for them. And
Oh,
so it was, okay, then how can I do it? Podcast, website? No, book. It
mm,
was just kind of filtering out all my ideas and putting the top 10 insights that I thought people could know and understand about adoption from my perspective. In my prologue, I position myself. I say I'm not a therapist, not a medical person, no formal psychology, not an expert. I'm just a 19-year-old kid with his thoughts and ideas. And it's 10 to 15 pages per chapter because our brains like fast, we like feeling accomplished. And plus, it's a quick read. I wanted it to be an afternoon cup of coffee read,
I
kind
love
of
it.
open your eyes, I said a little bit, open how you think.
Yeah,
I guess the couple chapters that really stuck out to me was that adoptees, not just adoptees, but people have identity issues. You don't know who you are really, and
totally.
you're still learning. I'm learning today. I'm confident in who I am. I love Elvis Presley, I like old records.
I love that. I love that you love Elvis.
It's wonderful. I got a poster of him in my dorm right now, but
Okay, so when I do reels of this, we're gonna have some Elvis music, okay?
I think we can do that. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's like
Go. Okay.
it's just the identity challenges, and that it's hard to find yourself when you're adopted because the kind of filler that you had of, oh, this is where I get my eyes. Oh, this is where I get my nose. Oh,
Oh,
that's where I get my height. This is where I get my
yeah,
ability. Well, I didn't have that. And so, not, a lot of adoptees don't. And so it's how do they find themselves? And then to me, it was, I'm going to just kind of figure them out for who I am and as I live my life. So it was just, how cool it is to paint your own identity? People kind of, don't realize how cool it is, but you get to be the artist of your own canvas. No one else
mm,
gets to paint it for you. You can put whatever, whenever, however you want on it, and that's you. And there's only one of one, full dive into it. And so that was super cool
mm,
about it. And, in there I talk about how adoptees do kind of have identity challenges, but at the end of the day, just figure out what makes you you, what you love. If you don't like something, it's still part of you. Like I hate Brussels sprouts. That's my identity. That's part of my identity. But just have fun with it. I guess
yeah,
another chapter I would love is that I always thought, I was raised by Caucasian parents,
mhm,
and so it was always the fact of, okay, how do we, blend his biological heritage and culture with our heritage and culture? And, it's really hard to raise somebody outside of the culture that you were raised.
sure.
It's not just a simple fact of, oh, well, the parents adopted a child of a different race. They need to immerse themselves. That is true. But you know how hard that is? I know if I had a baby brought to me from the Netherlands right now, I cannot raise it in Netherlands culture. I'm going to raise it the best that I see fit and using my background. But,
Right.
you know, there's just things like that. And I guess one of my best takeaways that I wrote in the book is that I never felt like I had to choose. It
That's
was
great.
it was part of, again, my identity and who I was. I was lighting off fireworks for the 4th of July and for Chinese New Year.
Yeah,
It
and
was
that's
just,
actually kinda cool,
oh yeah,
right? It's more to celebrate, like, it's all how you look at it, right?
oh yeah, absolutely. So, like, when you find some, how people like find out things are made by people and they're like, oh, the Irish did this, that's me. Well, then I was able to kind of double down and be like, oh, Chinese people made that. You're welcome.
Yeah, you're like,
Like, oh,
"Yep,
you're from
that's me
America.
again.
You're also
Yep,
welcome for that
that's
too.
also"
So I was able to double down, and so that was also, that was really cool. And I guess just, yeah, the book's 2-hour read, and it's just got insights, and it's not for only adoptive parents.
Totally.
It's in the website I go, who's it for? There's a little tab, and in it
Yeah,
says, this book is for everybody. Find out down below. It's for birth mothers to understand that I see, I know, I hear how courageous your decision was to place your child for adoption. And it's amazing. Some of the birth mothers I know are some of the strongest people. It's to show them that adoption isn't all bad. There's challenges,
mm,
but I'm living proof that an adoption can be a great story. So it's for them to realize, have faith in the decision that they made. It's for adoptive families to come closer, for parents to understand the child, but also the child to be understood by the parents. Not only that, it's for siblings. If you have an adopted sibling, well, then how is that going to, appear? If you have a nephew who's adopted, how do we? It's for everyone in the family to really better understand adoptees and adoption as a whole. But most importantly, I think it's for the public. It all starts with education.
Mm,
And that so I really kinda like to market my book to the public and say, if you just want a new understanding or just new point of view, just take a little read. See
yeah.
really if the things you've heard about adoption are true, if they're real. And so,
Mm,
I'm not saying that everything in my book is, 100% real because, if I think I had all the answers figured out, I'd be a fool. There's no bigger fool than a man who thinks he's got it all figured out. But these are just what I've learned in my 19 years of life, and I'm hoping that you read it and it leaves you with something. You take something away
mm,
with it. And
yeah.
so, I mean, the book's essentially just for everyone. I'm sure that if you read it, you can take something away, if not from a new understanding of adoption, but a new understanding of what else am I not thinking about differently? What else have my biases, have my things kind of closed my eyes off to? So that's kind of what the book,
Yeah.
I would say, is for and why I wrote it.
When you said it's like afternoon cup of coffee read, I'm like picturing fall vibes right around the
Uh,
corner. I've got my dog, I've got my scarf, and I'm curling up because I think it's really a good thing when you sit down and read a story that someone we all have stories. Everyone has a story. Some people are ready to tell it, some people don't know, some people, and no judgment, but when you are telling your story, it makes anyone who's ever felt the similar feeling, wherever whatever it comes from, that feeling of being not enough or the feeling of who am I? Or like, who do I want to be? Or why did that happen? Why did that event happen? Whatever. It's nice to be able to sit down and get out of your own head, read someone else's story and go, huh, me too. Okay. I'm not alone here. I'm not the only one that's ever felt this way, you know? So I love human stories like that. Tell me about the process of writing it. Did you sit down and it kind of poured out? Was it a project over time? And how did it help you kind of process everything?
well, I mean, I got the idea the summer of my senior year of high school going into freshman year of college.
Hmm?
Wrote it through my freshman year and published it last March. So March 29th is the date.
Okay.
The process of it, it was whenever, going through my first year, it was whenever I had a free time, Friday or Saturday, come around, work on it for a few hours.
Yeah.
There were some nights where I'd get like 4 pages down, look at it the next day, go, nope, don't like it, delete it all. And so the process was hard. It was tedious. First I had to come to terms with my own story. What did I really want to share? What did I
Mm,
want to share about me? And then it really hit me and said, you know what? I don't want to share a single thing about me. In my book, I don't talk about my story at all, not one bit, because then that's about my story. And that's my adoption. I wanted it to be about adoption as a whole.
mm,
And so I it also gives me something to come on podcasts and kind of talk about people to learn more.
totally. Yeah.
I guess the biggest thing through writing it all is I had to realize what adoption truly was. When I first started it, and I'll admit it, I was in my mind, it was, well, I had a great experience. Why can't other people have a great experience? I was not I was a very one-way thinker of it. And then, after connecting with people, I was saying, hey, if I wrote a book, what would you want to learn? What would you want to hear? What's something that your story that you shared? It was a lot of asking questions to find out what answers I wanted to answer. And just some of these adoption stories, it broke my heart because I realized that my adoption isn't the only adoption ever out there. It has not been the only adoption ever out there, and it continue to won't be. And I realized that at its base, adoption is the transferring of legal responsibilities from one child to another, of child from one person to another.
Yeah.
How that person or how that adoptee views their adoption depends on their experience. I had a great adoption, so I love adoption. But I've heard 10 other stories where people had a terrible experience. Adoptive parents were abusive, but didn't feel like they were heard, and they do not like adoption. It doesn't
Mm,
make my way right or their way wrong. But the one thing that I do know is that adoption isn't going away,
mm,
and that we're all not going to wake up and not be adopted. So it's how do we, with the limited time we have on this planet, how do we help the situation? For those who had a great experience, how do we use your stories and take aspects from your life? How do we pick apart those and figure out what worked to help other adoptees and families? For people who didn't have a great experience, how do we take your aspects and figure out what we need to leave out or what we need to add? How do we use our experiences to help adoption get better? Because
mm,
no matter your feelings on it, left, right, love it, hate it, anything in the middle, it's not going to go away.
mhm,
Plain as
mhm,
simple. It's not. And so it's just how do we make sure that every child can have a positive adoption experience? And
mhm,
just really being able to have that maturity and realize that over the 7-month time of reading it, my views changed. I now talk about birth mothers and I never previously did before that. I never really
mhm.
thought about the parents as much as I did. Not only are parenting is the hardest job in the world. My dad's famous line to me is, "There's no book to how to raise a child." And what he means by that is he doesn't mean that, you can look up parenting books, millions come up,
Yeah,
but there's no book on how to parent your child because everyone's different. And so
right.
it was just kind of realizing that there are so many different angles that I haven't thought about at the beginning of the book writing it to now
Mm,
my brain's at. It was an incredible learning. It was a learning experience more than anything from just the stories I heard. And even after the book, it's the stories I'm hearing about how it's, you know, what it's done in people's lives and families. And what I'm really eager about is, okay, 7 months from now, where's my brain going to be? How are my views going to be changed? How is my mind going to be open even more? Because if I've learned all that within 7 months prior, I cannot wait to see what I'm going to know 7 months in the future.
mm. Growth mindset.
Yeah.
Love it. And then it's like you tie the psychology of the growth of, "Oh, I'm always learning, always evolving," to with, the spiritual aspect of, God is always working on you and you're transforming. He's transforming you. And it's just getting better and you're learn the more you pour into that writing, and, like, letting your feelings out, I feel like something happens, right?
You go to a different place.
Something shifts.
I mean, I'm going to admit this here.
Consciousness. Yeah.
I'm going to admit this here, and I've admitted it. I would fail a test over my own book. If you tell me, like, if you gave me a 10-question test about what each chapter is about, like, I know the gist, but if
But
you asked me, like, specifics, I'd fail it. Because when I was writing it, my brain it was like something took over. Something was writing through me like that. I was just, yep, 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 yep. I want that. I want that. Like,
it
I
just
would fail.
it just wrote.
It
It wrote
just,
itself. It
it
wrote
wrote its
itself.
Yeah, that's the thing. And so, it's that thing of like, I wrote the book, my name's on it, my face is on it, but something else took a hold of me to write the book. And it's just kind of that whole thing of I don't know, I haven't even read it. I haven't sat down and read it because it's just I don't know
You
what I'm
know
gonna read.
you
I
know
don't know
what's
what
so
to read.
funny? My last guest, Alfred Brenner, he's a retired Marine who sat down and wrote the book, started as journal entries and stuff. He just said on Saturday, he's like, "Yeah, I haven't read it."
Yeah, no.
He hasn't read his book, and I'm like, "I'm seeing a pattern here." There because like, it's this catharsis of something happens in a beautiful way, right? When you put pen to paper or something, right?
Yeah, you get transported. When I tell people it wasn't me who wrote the book, I genuinely mean it wasn't me. It's my face on there, it's my words, it's what I have in my brain, but to get those brain thoughts onto pen and paper, it was something else entirely.
I love the idea of now that I'm open to it too, of the idea of the Holy Spirit and whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, you know, the high, or you're searching or you're atheist. I believe that everybody has that choice of what you want to believe in, but I'm telling you right now, that feeling as you connect and learn more, especially for me diving into the Bible and just being connected, when something is there and
Yeah.
something come and woo, whether it's music or writing where you're like, "Whoa, well, that was otherworldly, felt different, but amazing," right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
how is your faith? Was faith something you always had? Did you find it later like me in your 40s
I
or
found during my life, growing up, we'd go to church and, COVID hit, and that was when I was in
COVID?
8th grade. So it was
Ugh, 8th
so it was
grade.
then we kind of got out of going to church, but it was never a first thought to me. It really came when I realized that I shouldn't be here. That's when my faith really hit because it was, okay, I'm a pretty analytical guy. I like facts. I like deductive reasoning. Can anybody tell me why I'm here? Through the hurdles and the leaps and the jumps and the stars that had to align to get me born in China, abandoned on a doorstep, to now on scholarship at Cream University, who just published his own book and published his own website. Do you know what has to all fall in line for that to happen? It's not like, oh, I'm going to wrap a present. Step one, get the paper. Step two, get the tape. Like, oh, it is just so complex. And so I realized the only thing that it could have been was the Lord. And so, with something else is, and, I wanted something, I said, high school is when everything clicked, and I wanted something to really remind me of that. And so instead of a class ring, I had a cross designed.
Mm.
And, fortunately, a lot of my grandparents passed away my junior year of high school before anything took off. But I had this designed, and
Oh,
it's
that's beautiful.
these stones, and it's got, so this is my birthstone. Up and down are my dad's parents' birthstones. Left and right are my mom's parents. And think about it. 4 out of the 12 months, no, 5 out of the 12 months are in here. Do you know the odds of not having your birthday month as same as a grandparent? For the fact that this was able to be a thing and have no stones, overlap and go, well,
Yeah.
grandpa's on January, I'm also January. Can we
Mhm.
shift it over? No. The fact that it
Yep.
all is legitimately just perfectly laid out here. And I wear it every day. It's a
Oh,
reminder. I feel like they're with me.
you feel it's an anchor. I know
Yeah,
that.
it's
I
it's
know.
it's like this thing's got powers. I don't want to sound dorky when I say
No,
that.
but dude, trust me, I am everything I said I would never be. Like, I'm like,
Yeah, but I
"What
mean,
is this?" 'Cause everyone's like, "Great." I'm like, telling you, I thought it was weird before, and turns out this is the way to go. This is the way. You know what I mean? Yeah, it just something comes over you where you want. I was just thinking too, like, I literally have a tattoo, and I was like, "How can I turn that into a cross?" And I was like, sketching. I'm like, "Huh, yeah." You want something close to you or something to remind you of because it's been so transformative to have faith, you know?
yeah, I see life has been like before and after, and I'm gonna pick after every single time.
Ugh. After there's this sort of, and I'm just at the beginning, but there's a sort of new baseline. Every day you don't start. I don't have this overwhelming anxiety I used to have because I'm like, "Oh, wait, I'm not by myself. I'm not I'm not alone ever."
Yeah,
Right? You can
yeah,
feel it when you tap in, it's crazy, but,
absolutely. And I mean, with adoptees especially, I think faith has got a crucial role.
ooh,
The very fact of the birth parents that in a perfect world that would have been there. You're kind of worried now. Okay, who do I trust? They weren't there. Self doubt. I don't ever have to worry about God or Jesus, the spirit not walk by my side. It's always going to be there with me. I've seen what it's done in my life. And so I think finding a faith, I'm not going to tell you what faith. It's not my life. But as
yeah.
long as you find faith, I don't think anyone's life has gotten worse because they found it. Or, so
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
nice what I had, the feelings of unknown for me are now replaced with the feelings of support because I now have that extra kind of like, oh, it's I got that backbone. I got that extra, helping hand on my heart to guide me. And so it's a super cool thing to have and kind of now live with that knowledge.
Oh, yeah. In any faith community, whether you're at a mosque, a synagogue, whether you're just gathering in the park to talk about God or a church, there's something in being surrounded by people who are just for an hour a week or however long, just getting quiet and trying to listen and better themselves and try to just let go of things that they're struggling with because everyone struggles with something, you know? And it's been a huge anchor. Like you said, whether you're an adoptee or not, but specifically, I think when you're looking for that foundation and whether when you're an adoptee, I can imagine that foundation is blurry. What is that? Who is that? And you realize who the first father, who are, you know what I mean, of everybody that we all go to. And it's really comforting, you know, to know that. I can go on and on. I'm preaching here. Funny how as you get more and more into it, more and more my podcast, we all just, I'm like, just comes up because everyone wants to talk about God because God is a important theme through adversity. God is always there with you despite how it feels. Tell me more if you're comfortable, and I know you're an open book, but I always like to just ask if you're comfortable. Talk to me about let's talk about the amazing parts of your adoption and what were if someone's listening and they're considering adopting or maybe they're a newly adoptive parent and they're out there listening to podcasts going, "How can I be amazing? I'm gonna do this. I love my kid. And how do I do this?" What were some things that your adoptive parents, your parents did that you were like, "Good job, mom and dad. Thank you for that. That was awesome."
Well, the first thing they had to do is they looked at me and my dad had the talk with me of, I'm gonna screw up. And I don't mean me, I mean him. My dad, when you have your parent come to you and go, I'm not perfect, I'm gonna screw up, I'm gonna make mistakes, it really sets the line that they're human too. And as
Mm,
much grace as we need to have for ourselves, we need to have for them. The way I wasn't a perfect child, they weren't a perfect parent. But it was the fact that we both led with our hearts, that's what mattered. The fact that they did a great job of being so my parents, born in
yeah,
the late 60s, older
okay,
generation, couldn't have
yeah,
children themselves, so then adopted.
okay.
So they came from that generation where you don't speak about anything. You don't, the old kind of unwritten rule.
I know.
Yeah, I know, but we're not gonna bring it
Yeah,
up, that generation.
yeah.
And but I mean, as growing up, it was not like that at all. It was like all those barriers of the society they grew up in were broken because it
Oh,
was, you ever need to talk about your adoption, you wanna see the paperwork, you wanna do anything with this, you come let us know and it's done.
that's
So it
great.
was that they they knew they weren't gonna be perfect because there's no such thing as a perfect parent.
Tell me about it.
There's no such thing as a perfect kid. The fact that they have that open arm and the conversation of, "You deal with this, you do this however you see fit," because what's cool is that they're also adopted themselves, both of them. So we're really a family, it's just me, my mom, and my dad, and so the fact we're really a family through adoption, it
Amazing.
was the fact that just have that open arm. Know you're gonna make mistakes, but lead with love. I'm not gonna give parenting advice, and I'm very strategic about this because I can blow smoke up anyone saying, "Oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that." That means nothing until I hold my baby or I have a child in my home. It means literally nothing.
Yeah.
And so the thing I tell parents is, at the end of the night, when you close your eyes, can you say that you have the best interest in your child's heart? Do you have their best interest in mind? Do you have that best interest in their spiritual journey? Do you have their best interest in everything? Do you
Hmm.
love them? Do you care for them? And if you can say yes to all those questions, you can sleep peacefully.
That's a great answer. I love that. As a parent, that is a great exercise that I'm thinking about right now. 'Cause it's all about that intention, right? Even if you screw up.
Yeah, it's all about intention. What is that we need to realize is that, what is it? I think they came out with an article, My Generation is the Most Generation who's cutting contact with their parents now, something like that.
Yeah.
I understand that on some levels, if there's really a reason to cut contact, but I
Sure.
don't want to see families lose contact because of mistakes. Everybody makes them. It's that whole adage of, you probably got told this. I know I get told this all the time. I can't wait for you to have a kid because you're gonna
Oh,
see how hard this is, or they're gonna be my revenge to you. They're gonna keep you up all night.
that's what my parents said.
Yeah.
"You're so mouthy." I'm like, "Yeah, I have a podcast." Now my kids are like, "Ah." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I get it, I get it."
Yeah, no, that's where they get, yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, it's that whole thing of the same way I'm not, and I'll say it for the 100th time, I think, right now. I'm not a perfect kid. They're not a perfect parent. No family's perfect. Mistakes are going to be made. But have the same grace. It's the whole treat others the way you want to be treated. The same grace and understanding that you want to have when you mess up, relate
Totally.
on to others. Because if we
Mm.
thinking about that and start putting others before ourselves, I think the world must be a much calmer, much cooler, much more less stressful place.
Oh, yeah. Love that advice because I know there's a lot of parents listening or people that are thinking about becoming parents. Because I know before I became a parent, I loved kids, loved babies, loved my nieces. Oh, did I lose you? Okay, something
Yep.
happened. I lost you. We're there. But I was like, parenting is a big deal, and I had a little anxiety about it because I was like, I don't want to mess this up. The intention, right? And I think it's as a parent, what I've been trying to do lately. I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. Is when they're, like, doing something that's annoying, I'm, like, definitely in my mind, I'm thinking, "Flashback to your childhood, Brie. Like, what how did you see the world when you were 8 and 10? Okay, it wasn't you didn't you hadn't gone to therapy. You weren't 43. You didn't have like, remember, they're 8 and 10. They're 8 and 10." So, I've just I have to if you self-regulate before you try to regulate them, whew, game changer. But it's like, some days, guess what? I do a bad job self-regulating, and then I'm like, "Pa," or just like, "Stop it!" And then after, "Sorry, I yelled." But, so that advice of what was my intention and it's just good for parents to hear that, you don't have to be perfect, right?
Yeah, and that's coming. I'm just gonna say again, I'm not bringing this up, because of the age, but I am 19. I'm a kid still. I'm not a parent trying to go, yeah, let's go parents. Like I am a kid. If a kid gets mad, great. Tell them this came from a 19-year-old. You
You
know,
seem so much more mature, I gotta say. I gotta
I mean,
say.
I
You
think
really do. Do you get
it's
that a lot? You're very
yes,
articulate.
it's, I blame the records. I uh I grew up loving old things. My dad loves history, and so I really got that from him.
Mm.
Was today, I think, me and my dad are watching TV and we go, "Oh, what do you wanna watch?" I think we end up on watching, like, it was MASH.
I love it.
We end up on that, hanging around the older generation, always learning from them, always taking advice. I guess you can say their mannerisms have, rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
I got a record player, like I've mentioned. I've got
Oh, old school. Yeah, you're from the yeah.
I've got both Johnny Cash Live at the Prison records. I've got Michael Jackson's Thriller, and it's a way for me to really connect with an old sound. And, I mentioned that a lot of my grandparents passed before anything came out about me and I became actually who I am. But it's also a
Mhm.
cool way for me to kind of connect with them because they were hearing the exact same sound that I was hearing. And so, yeah, so it's just all those Glenn Campbell, George Jones, Loretta Lynn, Patsy Cline, Conway Twitty. It's like I've seen Engelbert Humperdinck came to Omaha, Nebraska when I was in fourth grade and I saw him, Andrea Bocelli just came, I think, in like
Oh,
May, I believe, went and saw
beautiful.
Andrea Bocelli. And, it's just that way of connecting through music and just through
Mhm.
older aspects of life. It really it's become it's part of who I am. And, I'm happy to be who I am because someone's got to carry all that stuff on. And, if it comes to me, I'll do it.
You'll do it. You know what? I love that you said that because I feel like when people are, listening to podcasts and they're like, "How do I better myself and become happier?" and da da da. Do the things you love. When you're listening to Elvis or you're listening, something gets stirred in you, do more of that.
Yeah.
For me, it's taking a walk and listening to worship music, taking a walk, listening to a podcast so I can learn a topic or just learn how other podcasters do it. I dork out. I could sit and make inspirational reels. It's scary. I could sit in this coffee shop for 12 hours, just keep refilling. I got my music on. That is my place. Or tell me about how has doing what you love, right, like, helped you cope with it's not masking pain
Yeah,
or confusion. It almost, like, just makes space for it. How do you
yeah.
see that?
So the way I see it is the best piece I think I've ever told, the best piece of advice I've ever given someone is, they were going through therapy. They're going, I'm trying to do their strategies. I'm trying to count to 10 when I'm calm. I'm trying to find happiness by going on a walk, but I hate walking. I'm trying to cook. I hate cooking, just trying to do other stuff. And I finally said, if you're trying too hard to be happy and you find yourself unhappy trying to be happy, maybe stop trying those things to be happy. You know what makes you happy. It's the feelings of, when I turn on an Elvis record, I can sit back and just relax. When I watch Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, an old
Oh.
50s musical, I can laugh and know that I love the storyline and
Yeah.
the artistic, ability to do what they do in the big dance scene. It's not erasing the pain. It's more overflowing it with dopamine. The pain's still there, but it's a
Mm.
free drug. It's not taking any pills, injecting
Yeah,
anything. It's legitimately a free drug that your body makes on your own. And I mean, if I can spend my 10 minutes, if I can spend 20 minutes of my time watching an old Western or musical or, kind of staring at my wall, I'm going to probably take the free dopamine. And so
totally.
it doesn't erase the pain, but it makes it easier to deal with. And the fact
Yeah.
of, okay, I'm kinda sick of feeling like this. Let's go watch cartoons or do something else. And especially when you layer that on with making sense of your story, finding
Mm.
support, being able to fight those feelings with facts, and then layer on that everything. I mean, you just that adversity doesn't stand a chance, but you really
I'm gonna repeat what you just said. You fight those feelings with facts,
yeah.
because feelings aren't facts.
Feelings are
They are
not fact.
not. And fear and my last guest, Alfred, said, "Fear is a liar," and those feelings come and they go, right? Like you were saying, you switch your attention to something that sparks joy, and that thing is still over here, but you don't have to stare at it all the time. Yes, it's
Yeah,
there. That pain is there. Nobody's saying it's not. Do we wanna, like, stare at it? For any pain, right? Do we wanna stare at the fact that we lost our job every day, all day? Or do we wanna, like, go bowling with our friends and be silly for 3 hours just to get our mind up? That
yeah.
stuff adds up. You can't just keep staring at the pain, right? Man, we've talked about in your book, it's insights, right? And you were saying anyone who reads it, that feeling of not being enough or finding identity, insights about adoption. And what I love is that when you're going around also talking about your book, you have this story of you can really feel what it feels like when you're posing these questions, right? Your experience, like you said, you're 19 years old. You don't claim to have all the answers, but I think there's so much power in telling your story. Tell me about how it helped you find some of those answers, right? Long-winded way of asking you, what would be one of the insights that was most transformative for you personally?
I think it was the prologue, writing that. It wasn't so much the insights that I wanted to inform other people or, let other people know. It was the prologue of realizing that I got a lot of life to live and I got a lot of life to learn. I know that I've done some great things. I've accomplished a lot for my age, but at the end of the day, they're just things. It doesn't
Mm,
make me better and it doesn't make me worse than anybody. So it was the inside of realizing that I can now, instead of running into a situation and have emotions up front, I can now sit back, self analyze, try and put myself in their shoes. That inside of realizing that I'm not always high on my horse, I'm not always the know it all, I don't
mm,
have it all figured out. Being able to kind of accept that and go, okay, where do have my footing? Where do I have my footing in this argument? Where do I have this footing in this meeting, in this school day, in my day? Where do I have my actual footing and not just letting emotions run that? I think that was the biggest insight I've ever taken away. And, like I said, I've learned a lot. I know how I'm confident in my abilities, I'll say, to read a room, to learn when people are genuine, to see, you know, are people really who they say they are? I'm
Yeah.
confident now in my abilities through experiences, but that doesn't mean I can't have, you know, more stuff to learn. Tonight, like today, I said I was working. A guy came in, older gentleman, had a real nice car. We're talking like I think it was like a 56 Bel Air.
Okay.
And you don't get that car by just slacking off and doing nothing. And so he had a nice wash on, helped him a little bit. And I asked him, and I said, every time we have a customer with a very nice car, and or even just anyone, if I talk to them, I'll say, okay, I'm 19. What life advice do you have for me? And it's all about how I can learn. And you'll get everything from all sorts of angles. And what it is that you're going to get a lot of life advice. I'm going to get a lot of life advice. Some of it I'll take worth more than others. Some of it I'll throw out the window. But at the end of the day, if I can shut my eyes and lay my head on my pillow, knowing that I can sleep in the decisions that I made and lay in the bed I make myself with my actions, and I'm good to go.
Love how you said that. If I lay in the bed I made myself with my actions. Love that. I've never actually thought about it that way. I would say, like, you sleep in the bed, you sleep in the bed you make, whatever that phrase
Mhm.
is, but you lay in the bed you sleep, and what it looks like ends up it's a compilation of your actions and choices.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I knew that when I was 19. Oh, man. No, this is so cool. Your wisdom and the way you have the gift you have of even just from reading your website and your book as soon as we're done here, it's coming in the mail. The way that you're able to articulate it, I think is a real and not that you need validation from me, I'm just telling you. I'm working on not needing validation. That it's a beautiful gift to give to anyone because I think also your perspective as someone who is 19. Again, I'm not a big believer in age determining where you're at. I think there are people that are just coming everyone's journey is at different ages and you realize things in different decades and then it's all such a beautiful journey, but I think we can learn so much from the older generation, from our peers, and then from our kids if we finally just maybe you can actually learn something instead of trying to just bark at them all the time, right? It's exciting to see where you're gonna go from this because we were saying before, you just published your website,
Mhm.
you have your book, you've been on podcasts, and we're gonna link to all that stuff in the show notes. What do you have brewing in your mind next? Anything that you can tease us with or don't give it all away. But
I guess what I have in my mind next is how far can I really take this book? How far can I really help? How how many families can I really help provide this resource to and get this book in their homes? How just
yeah,
how do I help people? Like I said, at the end of the day, it's how do I help people?
yeah.
And
Scale that help. Get that
and
help out there.
like I said, was it that question I'm getting a lot is, well, what's next? What do you want to do? I just want to help people. I'll take it day by day because
With
if you
that,
focus too much on the future, you're gonna miss the present. So I'm taking it day by day, helping people, seeing what opportunities knock at my door, because I know everything I'm doing comes from a good place of heart. I know that if any, as much love as I get from doing this, I also get some hate. Like I told you, I say that if you have an issue with a 19-year-old kid trying to do what I'm doing, that says everything about you and nothing about me. And that I know what I'm doing comes from a good place. It comes from a place of things that I wish I had. And really just as long as I can keep being the person I am, being a good person, I hope, doing what I can for others, my opportunities kind of just follow that. I'm a go-getter, I'm an achiever, I like chasing it, but I don't know. It's that other feeling right now. I'm out of loss of words, and that usually doesn't happen to me, but it's just that extra kind of, spiritual kind of feeling I have that I don't know. I don't have all the answers right now for my futures plans, but I'm positive and I'm pretty excited to see what happens. So we're
Wow.
both in the same seat, just kind of seeing what happens, and I can't wait.
100%. And that's where the faith turns into what used to be anxiety for me is like, oh, I'm so excited. I have no idea but I know that it's taken care of. And I know we just talked at church today about trials are expected, necessary. They're coming for everybody. Trials in different sizes at different times to different degrees, but they're actually what forges you in the fire and sharpens you. And so it's actually he was saying there's a part in the Bible, rejoice when there's stuff happening because you are getting transformed and then you're gonna it's just such a beautiful process when you start this journey of going after what you want, right? Doing knowing that you wanna help people, but at the same time letting go, you can't control exactly how that's gonna turn out.
Mhm.
In what way? Or you don't know what podcast comes knocking on your door, and then this leads to this, and then, "Oh, I had lunch with this person." I mean, it's so exciting to know that, right? And, you've got such a great mindset, presence, attitude. I can't wait to follow you and see everyone who comes on the show, now we're all besties. We're like, "Ooh, what's going next? Ooh, ooh, what are they ooh," And it's just such a cool community of people who wanna help people. I'm excited to read your book and see your next adventures because Marked by Adoption, I think, goes in so many you can tell your story in so many ways,
Okay.
you know? So, we'll have to have you out sometime. Big dreams for in-person events where all my guests come and tell your story in person from start to finish.
Whatever happens, you gotta hopefully let me know about it.
Please. Uh,
I can't believe I've gone this podcast without mentioning this particular person,
'Kay.
but my one piece of advice is learn. At all else, you can learn. And I have a mentor. Her name's Shannon Bingham. She, I think today just won like the Miss Ultimate International Miss or something at a pageant. She is a knockout superstar, and everything that I've ever done or will do stems from her. She's the reason why I got into adoption. My senior year, I get invited to testify for resolution at a Nebraska state capitol from her that she helped bring up with the senator.
Mhm.
There, I give my testimony about a lot of I wishes I had, I wish my parents had. Goes great. At the end of it, a senator comes up to me and goes, "Turn those I wills turn those I wants into I wills." And so it's really just, that's what sparked it all and put me on this journey. And then within 2 to 3 years of my life, it is just domino fell after one to another. But I mean, find a mentor. If there's something you wanna do, like, I'm sure in your spiritual journey, you have someone in mind that's your mentor, and
Oh, yeah.
Shannon Bingham is my mentor, and she's just I could sit here for another hour and probably sing her praises, but the way you know, she kind of the way she looks at the world, the way she treats others with kindness. She wants others to be the best version of themselves, and it's just really learning all I can from her. I have met up with her, I have been around her family maybe 100 times,
Hmm.
but every time I get a, "Hey, family's coming over. Hey, come into the shop. Can you help me out with this event?" I am so eager to go because I know that I could go hang out with that family and her 100 times more, and there is something new that I can always learn. So that's my advice. Learn, learn, learn. From
Mm.
mentors, family, from friends, learn. You can never learn too much. Our brain can get as big as we want. When you
Mm.
keep learning the same thing, that myelin sheath just keeps building. And so
Mm.
that's my advice. I'd say just learn.
Phenomenal advice. Mentors are quite transformative that shepherding you through, adversity, business, anything. We're not designed to do this alone, clearly, right?
We- People
It's
need people more than
yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, seriously, Wilson, thank you so much. And I am really, really grateful that we are connected and that you know, chose to be a guest on this podcast. I don't take it lightly when anybody comes on and is vulnerable and takes the time to just speak with me and like be real. And I think there's this movement in the world of authenticity and just keeping it real and no shame and just talking about solutions. And I think your book, and especially being an old person like me, it's so exciting to see a younger generation just I'm learning so much from you, So as 40 somethings, we need help. So keep writing and keep talking so I
Ab
can learn.
Absolutely, I appreciate the time for you
Yeah.
allowing me to be a guest. This
Yeah.
podcast approaches in adversity. I'll tell the listeners, I didn't know what this was a week ago. Saw a reel, connected with somebody, made a mistake, got connected to
You're
you,
like,
really, yeah, but, I mean, I just wanna say that it's incredible to see what you're doing too, wanting to
"Thanks."
have people have an opinion and have a voice, and that whole just adversity. You're not selling the problem. A lot of people sell the problem. You're selling the
Mm.
solution,
Oh, I
and
like
that's
that.
something that truly just it's remarkable about me. It's remarkable about you and
Yeah.
nice with me, and so it's incredible to see what you've done, what you're doing, and I think
Thank
adventure
you.
is gonna be real big. I think it's gonna be bigger than it's ever been.
Well, I'm excited. I'm feeling something's happening. I'm just riding the wave. I'm like surfing, being like, just I'll just go. You just send me all these people and I'm like so grateful. I laugh out loud when I get an email. Of course, God, you're showing off. God's showing off. I'm another amazing person. They want to they want to talk to me. Oh, okay. This is amazing. Like, the more you go for it, the more God gives back,
The
and it
more you
blows your
have
mind.
yeah, no, it's the more
Blows your
you
mind.
the more he'll, put his faith in you, and
Uh,
it's just,
Last question.
"Alright, I'm ready."
Favorite Elvis song?
Indescribably Blue. It's not a
Mm,
popular song, but the story that goes around it is that it was, like, something like Elvis wasn't feeling particularly like he wants to go to the recording studio, so they brought the recording mics to him in his hotel and then overlaid the the backup music and the backup singers.
okay.
So when you listen to the song Indescribably Blue, I can just picture Elvis just in that hotel going, "Yeah, I don't wanna get up today," and just recording it, and everything done today, they need the fanciest, newest mics, the editors, the fact that this guy can just have a microphone brought in that time period and just go, "Okay, I'm just gonna sing like an angel now just because." You can't beat that talent, and you can't
Mm,
find it anymore. And so that song about just really just the backstory of that song and how beautiful that song is, I recommend you definitely listen to that right after
I'm
this.
going to.
That's my favorite Elvis song, I believe.
Well, I'm gonna listen to it. I'm gonna go for a walk later, and I'm gonna listen to some Elvis. I actually went to 8th grade? 8th grade, I went to Graceland. Graceland. It was
I love
amazing. I remember every part of it. I was like, "This is so cool," because I knew who Elvis was back then, and I was like, "Have you had a chance to go yet?"
I've been 3 times.
Oh, you of course you have.
That was my Disney World instead of, "Do you wanna go to the" "Nah, I'd go back to Graceland." So it
Oh,
was before you
yeah,
it
you're
was
an old soul.
now that they built yeah, no, it's there's I can send you there's a little preschool photo of me dressed up as Elvis Presley. I can send that to you. You could use that
Please,
as
can I
I don't
please I need to
absolutely,
because I
yes.
feel like the clip, there's gonna be some Elvis, there's gonna be a lot to work with now. I'm loving this.
No, I'll send that over.
Well, guys, please go check out Wilson's website. I'm getting the URL here, markedbyadoption.com. You can see all about Is It For Me, testimonials, other media features, how to order it, and how to talk to Wilson because I feel you're gonna be a busy guy. I'm gonna have to be busting down your door to be like, "Come back and talk to me." You're like, "Bree, I'm kinda busy right now, okay?" But please go have a wonderful night, and thank you again for
Mm.
everything.
Thank you for everything. It's been an incredible honor.
Awesome. Well, we will talk soon, my friend.
Alright.
Bye.
Thank you.